All right, we're learning now a very interesting sentence, a deeper meaning of a very interesting sentence in our Torah portion. And it says there that if you do what I want, God promises, if you do what I want, then there will not be a mashakela biartzecha. There will not be there won't be any women mashakela o akara biartzecha. There won't be any mourning women. And there was women that give birth to children, and God forbid they die, or also God forbid that there won't be any barren women. Now, in Judaism, just simply, life is precious, and to have children, people are willing to go to tremendous ends, to doctors, to this, in order to have children. A couple that gets married and they don't have any children, it's a big tragedy. They go pray and etc. So having children. Yesterday, just a few days ago, in fact, I was present at a bris, and of a couple that had been married for 7 years. They didn't have any children, and they prayed and they went and they had treatments. I have another good friend that he was married for like 14 years. He didn't have children. Now he's got the children. I think his oldest child has just got married, but there was a long time they were married. So not having children is a terrible, awful thing. Generally in the world, people want to have children. Having children is the blessing, and having the how do you say satisfaction from your children. I don't think there's any more pure satisfaction in the world than that. Than the one that, of course, everything can be twisted around, and you say, it's everything is egotistical, and that, Freud and all of his cronies were experts at that. Everything is, there's an ulterior motive, and everything is selfish. But that's not so. That's not so. The fact is, there's such thing as true love, and true honesty, and true the courage, and true. There's true. You're not doing it for any ulterior motive whatsoever. In fact, that's what Judaism came to the world to give, that you realize that we're just creations of God, and that being selfish is denying that fact. Being selfish and thinking, what am I going to get? It's denying that fact that we can demand things that God doesn't want us to demand. That's how the whole business started off with the God said to Adam, you can have the whole world, but just don't eat from that tree. And he said, oh, I want the tree. That's the thing. So being selfish is not good. The ultimate of being selfish, the first commandment, in fact, in the Torah, is pru'uravu, is to have children. Is to have children. That's, by the way, I mean, I hate keeping, harping on this, but it seems to me that the world just now, I hope it's ended, has reached its lowest point of self-destruction with this whole woke movement and the LGBT, because all this stuff is anti-birth. All these initials for LGBTQ, all these are different deviations of the of having children, so they can't have children. Different ways to avoid having children. With children's okay. So it says in the Torah, therefore, one of the biggest blessings in the Torah is, and as I've said so many times before, and I don't have to say it, you can see it in the 5 books of Moses, is not mentioned the reward of going to heaven or hell, because that's talking about afterlife, and life is the most important thing in this world. Okay, so says the Rebbe, but there's also the reason of giving birth in this world is so important, is because the whole reason that we're in this world, the whole reason that we're here in this world is spiritually is to give birth. What does it mean to give birth? Not here. We're not talking about physical children. We're talking about spiritual children. What's the spiritual children? Love and fear. Man was made in such a way that he to not only to grow, but also to increase, to produce new things. And so it is with our soul. Our soul also is to produce love and fear in our soul. Love and fear of that's appreciation of God. When a person has appreciation of God, is automatically ensues from that love of God and fear of God. And that is the whole reason why our soul is here. Having physical children is great. That's really wonderful. But I mean, it just sort of pushes off the problem. Why is man here? Can't say, well, we're here because of the next generation. So, okay, that just pushes the problem off to the next generation. What are they here for? So the answer is to serve God. That's why we're here. And when you serve God, as one of the signs that your service is true, is that you get a free gift from God, which is called love or fear, appreciation of God. Appreciation of God. There can't be anything greater. Just like a person that has a sense of music. I mean, people pack in to hear a great musician, pianist, or something like that. They'll pay who knows how much, $500 a ticket to see this pianist because they love music. So imagine a person like that was deaf, that he couldn't hear, and you say to him, I'll give you the power of hearing. Oh, you would be happy. I can hear music. Well, we are deaf and blind to how good God is. God is infinitely more harmonious and pleasing and beautiful than music is. Music is also good. But God is the source of it. So when a person feels God, what does it mean, God? God is creating us. We don't really exist in any way independent from God's creative power. And God is creating us, and he's enlivening us, and he's creating us in a very complicated way. He's giving us eyes and ears and nose. But even more, he's giving us responsibility, and we're here in order to do what God wants and to change the world. And he's empowering us to do this responsibility. And when we feel this, we feel love. So feeling love of God is being genuine. God is so infinitely good. To feel this is to be good, is to be genuine. That's real. And that's our purpose in the world, to love God. That was Abraham. He brought this idea to love God, to do whatever God wants in love. Why is this thing not moving over? 1 minute. There must be an explanation of this. Here we go. Okay. So says the Rebbe, but we have to know that this love, appreciation that we get from God is a gift. I mean, if you think about it, everything is a gift. The fact that we can walk, the fact that we can see, the fact that we can hear, the fact that we're alive, it's all gifts. It's all amazing gifts. In fact, that's the name Yehudi, Jew. Yehudi is connected to the word of hodaya, being grateful. The essence of what a Jew is to be grateful to the Creator, to feel the Creator, to love the Creator, to fear the Creator. But these are gifts that God gives. God gives. On the other hand, we're able to, how do you say, make imitations. How they call it? Counterfeit. Oh, we can counterfeit. We can copy. We can make a counterfeit love and fear. we can do it on our own. We have the ability to like play act. So we can act like we have love and fear. We can think about God, and we can this, and then we sort of produce in a, how do you say, the mechanical way, love and fear of God. Like this Professor Viktor Frankl. I read a lot of what he wrote. He's excellent. Professor Viktor Frankl, and he says that the big fault of America is pursuit of happiness. So happiness cannot be pursued. It has to ensue. Happiness comes from life. It doesn't come from you. It's a gift. You have to do things that are genuine. And when you do things that are genuine, invest in your marriage, invest in your family, invest in your job, invest in this, help other people. And what will ensue from that is happiness. Same thing with truth, something with courage. All these things are gifts from God. They ensue, but you have to open yourself up. You have to open yourself up. You have to work. So our job is to work and serve the Creator and think about the Creator and try. But the true happiness, a true love, in our case, we're talking about, is a gift from God. But we can also imitate. We can imitate God. And even in the Tanya, what is it in the 14th chapter? Is it 14th chapter? That it says that if you imitate loving God, you pretend that eventually it'll come to be true. But you have to realize that you're pretending. That's the point. You couldn't think that it's real. So that's what it says. If a person has love and fear that he made, and he stops at that, then there'll be meshakela va'akara. Then that love will go away, or it'll never be true. It'll never be true. Why? Because it comes from artsecha. It comes from your land. He explained there's the upper land, the upper earth, that's where all life and love and etc., all of God's inspirations come to us. They come to us. Like just like from the ground grows up trees and fruits, as there's also the spiritual ground, but that's above it, above us. Physical ground is below us. But the above, the source of all as a blessing that's called the upper land. And from that comes, so it says there will not be, the blessing is there will not be a mourning woman or a barren woman in your land. It says why? Because why would they be born? Why would a woman be, the woman is the Jewish people. Why would they be barren? In other words, they have love. They give birth to this love, but it dies, or they can't give birth to the love at all. It's not really real. Why? Because it's artsecha, because it comes from you. It says because they don't come from God. You don't wait for the gift from coming from God, and you produce it yourself. Just like in America, you try to produce your own happiness. You run after your own happiness. It's short-lived. It can't really be real. Because true happiness comes from as a gift from God. It comes from a gift, as a gift from God. And so it is true love. It has to be a gift from God. You can pretend to love God. And the Alter Rebbe even suggests that it's a good thing to do. Where is it? Let me have a look over here. This is in, there it is, chapter 14, I think. 14, end of chapter 14. Huh? So that Kuli High, that maybe it'll be 1 second. Here it is. 1 minute. Give me a second. Chapter 13. Yeah, 14. Chapter 14. Yes. Chapter 14. The end of chapter 14. Of the Tanya. Okay, so that's one type of akara and mashakela that you never really achieve true love. You don't wait for love to come from above, but you satisfy yourself with loving God according to your own thoughts, according to your own ideas, according to your own feelings. So that's not long. It's not long-lived. What does it mean, by the way, that it's not long-lived? As soon as there's any sort of a test, a difficulty, as you'll stop with your love of God, you'll return to what you really love, namely yourself. Good morning, Menachem. Okay, but there's another type. Yes, there's another type of akara. There's another type of a barren Judaism. What does it mean, barren Judaism? Judaism without love, genuine love of God. There's a Jew that doesn't give any birth to genuine love of God. Now, again, a person that genuinely feels the truth that I'm being created by God, God is infinitely good, God helps me, God loves me, God takes me out of Egypt. If so, a person will automatically, there'll be inspired love in that person. Love. A person appreciates, wow, God is so infinitely good. He's bringing me into existence constantly. This is a gift, a gift of genuineness that comes from God. Okay, but this says if it's just in your imagination, it's just a thing that comes from you, then it won't be long lasting. It won't be long lasting. Even if you do come to true love of God forever, and you could really, you say, stimulate your mind and your heart from your own thoughts, but it's not going to last. Then there's another type of barren, and that is a Jew that can't fathom, it's not real to him at all what love of God is. What does it mean? Who can Imam Rizal says, Ein lo velad, afilu beit velad ein lo. It says that Sora didn't have any children. She was barren. She didn't have any children. She didn't have any womb. She didn't have any potential to give children, it says. That's what's called metumtamim, a person that's all, closed up. Shenistam kokach, a person is so closed, she'en lo kli kibul lekabel harayon. She can't get pregnant. There's also the same thing with, okay, that's the example there. What's the That's a metaphor for what's going on in our soul. So again, let's stress this. Having love and fear of God is essential to genuine Judaism. Having love and fear of God is essential to genuine Judaism. From love, you do all the positive commandments. From fear, you avoid doing what God prohibits. Why? Because you love God so much that you want to do anything that he says. And you're so afraid of going against God, not because of what's going to happen to me, because God is so good that you avoid everything that's so love and fear. That's what makes Judaism genuine. Most people love and fear themselves. That's religion. That's what takes Judaism out of religion. Judaism comes to bring genuineness into the world, a potential not to be selfish. When a person realizes how good, infinitely good is, and that God is the source of all of us, of me, then a person has automatic love. But what if a person doesn't have this? What is it? So he still can realize down deep in his soul that Judaism is right and Judaism is good. They used to have in Israel, I think they still do. It's from the Litvish Jews. They used to make these seminars. I think they still do. And they had this thing called the foolproof program to show you that how the Torah is true, because if it wasn't true, then X, Y, Z, right? And there's so many millions of people that passed it down from generation and generation. In other words, it comes down to that it's to your benefit, that you have a better family life and a better marriage life and a more healthy and etc. And you're happier and you're more honest and all these good things that accrue from being a religious Jew, right? So it ends up that you're really loving yourself, but you just realize that the best investment is Judaism and the Torah. So says the Rebbe, that's okay. I mean, it's better than doing sins. But if you think that that's what Judaism is, that that's all there is to Judaism, then you're missing the whole picture. You're missing the whole picture because it's dead. The thing it's not really truly alive. It's like a person that loves his wife and his children or whatever because it says so in books. This is what you're supposed to do, and if you don't do it, then you'll get a punishment. So he fakes it, and the same thing. He's loving God. He's faking it. So he says there's some people that they just can't get it. They're just impossible. Who are those people? Almost everybody. They just cannot get loving God. Al derech zeh, there's sometimes people shebechina la'avodat Hashem, the serving God, she'einu tofes b'mocho, he cannot grasp in his brain and in his intelligence the truth. Ka'asher machmas she'en lo kli machzik. He cannot understand God because all he feels is himself. Now, who is this? The Rebbe is trying to tell us that that's everybody. I mean, I know that it's me. You wouldn't even know that it was such a thing if the Rebbe wouldn't tell us that it's possible to genuinely love God. So once in a while, we can sort of feel this. Once in a while, you can sort of feel. I think there's two stories that I tell, which to me sort of really illustrate this. I mean, there's a lot of stories that illustrate this, but the two stories one is about the simple man, that the simple man that when he would say Shema Yisrael in synagogue, he would start to shake and tremble, and finally would just roll on the ground. And so the rabbi afterwards came and asked him, listen, between me and you, I mean, you must know some sort of Kabbalah, some sort of secrets, He says, no, I don't. It's very hard for me to read Hebrew even. So he says, well, I mean, come on, you could be honest with me. What is it that what is it that inspires you to, when we say Shema Yisrael, you're rolling onto the ground. You're thinking about God, right? I said, oh, yeah, I'm thinking about God. I sure am, yeah. So what do you think about? I said, well, I'll tell you the truth that, I tried to understand what's going on over here, and I couldn't. I just didn't understand, and it says you should love God with all of your heart and all of your might. So I didn't understand what it means to love God, and I saw you, Rabbi, I saw how you, when you say Shema Yisrael, you close your eyes, I see you're really genuine, So I asked you to explain, and you explained, and I just didn't get any of your explanations about the oneness of God and how God is creating us. So I went and asked my friend, I told him my problem. So he said, listen, I'll tell you what to do. You have a farm. You're a farmer, yeah. So did anything ever happen to you on your farm that scared you? So I said, listen, I don't like to talk about it, but once I was attacked by a turkey. A turkey. Turkeys are huge. Turkeys are huge. They have huge wingspan. And the turkey must have gotten mad at me and it attacked, and I was just frozen with fear. I just was just thinking about it. I don't like to think about it. I said, okay, listen. Anytime you say Shema Yisrael, think about that turkey. Remember that time and think that God is more scary and more powerful than a turkey. And that's what I think about. So here you have a person that he can't really understand what God is. He doesn't, but he really wants to. So he thinks about a turkey, and that, that. So that's one example of a person that doesn't have this. Another example, I think I told you this, that I know somebody that he worked together with a Yemenite, or he knew somebody that worked with a Yemenite guy in Israel, an Israeli. And they lived in America. Not far from the Rebbe's headquarters. But this Yemenite guy was totally not religious. Totally. Just rejected everything with Judaism. No, didn't eat kosher, didn't do anything whatsoever. Even though, of course, his parents were, totally religious, or his grandparents for sure were. So he left everything. So this fellow, they worked together in some sort of a garage, a auto mechanic garage. So this one fellow, that I guess the Ashkenazi guy, he was a little bit religious. He used to go once in a while to the Lubavitcher Rebbe to get $1. The Rebbe used to hand out dollars and give people blessings every Sunday. And there was huge lines of people. And he would give out dollars to people to encourage them that they would exchange this dollar, but they would also give charity. That was, anyway, so this Yemenite, he had big bushy hair, and he had all sorts of, the earrings and piercings and everything like that. And he went with him to the Rebbe. And this Yemenite guy finally agreed. He'll get the $1, and then his partner will leave him alone. He went by the Rebbe, got the $1, just kept walking, went across the street to the barber shop, got all of his hair cut, haircut, it removed the piercings and all that from him. Went the next door, bought a pair of tefillin and a talis. And he said, so his friend said, what happened? He said, I don't know what happened. He said, all of a sudden, I just realized that I want to be a Jew. I just want to be a Jew. In other words, it woke up inside of him that his whole personality was not really right. It wasn't right. It was just blocking him from having any appreciation whatsoever of God. Now, he didn't do this because the Rebbe said, you better do tshuva or you're going to burn in hell. He didn't say, he just saw the Rebbe, that's all. He just saw that there was some sort of truth. So up to then, he was totally, closed. He was totally closed up to any sort of feeling of godliness or spirituality, anything whatsoever. And somehow the seeing the Rebbe just opened it up. So there's some people like that are just totally closed up to feeling any sort of love or appreciation of God. And that's basically everybody, to various degrees. So it says the whole essence of what a Jew is that he's a vessel. A Jew is a vessel for God's blessing. Kines Israel, the Jewish people, they are called Kos Yeshuos, the vessel, the cup of salvation. And this word Yeshuot, salvation, is talking about the high lights and revelations and love of God. Shu Kli Kibul, the Jewish people are a vessel for this aspect of salvations. She'u Kibul, they are vessels to receive God's kindness and love. And this is called the cup of blessing. Shemakabelet yayin, that this receives wine, hamasameach, that makes us happy. Hainu bechinas hitbonanut, namely by means of thinking. When a person thinks about what God is, then he becomes a kli rekan. He becomes empty. Something like that Yemenite guy went in front of the Rebbe and suddenly just emptied him out from all of his false ideas that he has to, go to the partying every night, and he has to have bushy hair, and he has to have the piercings in every place in his body. And suddenly the whole thing just fell away. And he had an appreciation for what God is. A Jew is supposed to be an empty vessel, waiting for God. Now, it means empty from his own false egotism, which is not the case in machzik makom la'atzmo, which is not the case if a person really holds himself to be very important. But nechshav ba'atzmo, and he is really very, how do you say, the important in his own eyes. The fact is, we are very important, but that's why God is creating us. Everyone that's being created has to know that he's important, but he's important in God's eyes. That's why God is creating him. But I'm not creating myself. If a person holds by himself and he thinks that he's very, very important and that he is very essential and etc., then what happens is that he has no possibility of loving or appreciating God. It just gets in his way. It just what do you give talking about God for? Leave me alone, right? Who is this? God is my competition. God is my competition. Well, that's exactly the opposite. The fact of the matter is you are God's competition. God is creating you. He's enlivening you. He loves you. He's giving you eyes, ears, mouth. He's giving you responsibility. He's giving you power. And you say, no, that's the whole sin of Adam. And God said, do whatever you want to, but just don't eat from this tree. And Adam said, oh, you know what I think I'll do? I think I'll eat from this tree. Okay, therefore, therefore, people, they do whatever they want. Say, this is what I want. This is what's good for me. But I can't do this. I can't put on tefillin. I can't keep Shabbat, etc. In other words, I am the one that calls the shots. Without any end. But in general, this is yesh b'chinazu l'kol echad v'echad. Everyone can find this in his soul. The problem is to find this in your soul. You have to be sort of outside of it, objective. But if you're not, the person thinks, "What's wrong with me? I don't know what the rabbi is talking about." Right? I mean, I'm an egotist. He's also an egotist, right? He happens to be the rabbi. He's he's a big. He knows Torah. He's a spiritual person. That's his ego. That's what he gets off on, right? I get off on whatever it is, on music, on having fun with my friends, whatever it is, and he likes God, and he likes these spiritual things. So let him do what he wants, and let me do what I want. Says the Rebbe is trying to explain. No. We're talking about what reality is. If your whole life, the whole pleasure that you get out of life, and the whole goal of life is for yourself, and doing what I want and doing what I want, so you can do it. God is creating it. You can do what you want. You can do whatever you want, and you can succeed, right? Usually, the people who go against God are the biggest succeeders. They succeed. Napoleon, right? The Stalin, Hitler, right? All these people, they kill. What do they care about? And they succeed. They go big time, right? And the Nebuchadnezzar, Titus, these people, Paro, they ruled the whole world. They rule the whole world. Egotism pays off, but not for long. That's the thing. It's just not for long. Derech klal, but in general, there is that each and every person can find this egotism in himself. That's the reason we get mad. That's the reason we get depressed. That's the reason we have lust. That's the reason people cheat on their wives, on their husbands, on their partners, on the businesses, right? Business partners, they cheat on the customers. They lie. They do all this because they're thinking about themselves. Whether we're talking about a person who isn't in business, whether we're talking about people who learn Torah, anytime a person says, "What I want, I think, I did," therefore your mind becomes stuffed up, your mind or your heart. And that's a different type of an akara. That's a different type of a barren woman that she can't, and we're talking about barren as far as giving birth to love and fear of God, that we don't have any womb. The mind can't accept any ideas about God. I know sometimes I go every day and I put tefillin on people in this nearby hospital. I know I've said this a lot of times. Since the war, this crazy war started on October the 7th, so the Rebbe said putting tefillin on other people helps protect the soldiers. So I go every day for half an hour, not usually no less than half an hour. Sometimes 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and I put tefillin on people. So sometimes, this happened yesterday, I asked the person, want to put on tefillin? Oh, yes, thank you so much, Rabbi. We appreciate this so much. It's so wonderful. This is great. And so I think, well, I'm feeling really good. People, what, he wouldn't have put on tefillin if I did. I go to the person next to him and I say, what about you? Want to put on tefillin? The guy gives me a look. Give me a look like, like I woke him up from, a pleasant sleep or something. He gives me this look like, and he says, Lech labinimat. Go to hell. The guy says, go away from me. So sometimes, you get, there's people that they have no idea what you want from tefillin. Why in the world would a person put on tefillin? The majority of people that say no, they say no, thank you. That's a new thing now. They say no, thank you, right? But there are some people that just, why in the world would a person put on these boxes? What in the, there's absolutely no concept. We're talking about older people, 60, 70 years old. Why in the world would a person do a thing like that? But it says the Rebbe that we can find this inside of each and every one of us. It's not just outside. Each and every one of us, you can feel that the reason we don't have any appreciation of what the God of Israel is because we think that we're God. And we feel that I'm calling all the shots. That, by the way, is the cause of anti-Semitism, the end cause of anti-Semitism. I think I've said this also 500 times, but I'll say it again. The reason I became a religious Jew, I was already, 25 years old. I finished university. I went to this lecture of a very, very well-known professor, and he made an anti-Semitic statement. He said, all the bad in the world comes from the theistic Jews. That's what that. So I heard him say this, and I didn't understand why would he say something against the Jews? I couldn't figure it out. And the theistic Jews and I didn't get it. And this person was not an anti-Semite. I looked it up afterwards. I don't have to say his name, but he was definitely not an anti-Semite. He was not. He did not like the idea that there is a God that tells us what to do, that there's a Torah. No one's going to tell me what to do. Everyone is God. Everyone writes their own Torah. And he was, in his time, he was tremendously popular. He was the big guru of LSD, tremendously popular person, tremendously successful. But it hit me, that, what in the world is he got against the Jews? Why doesn't he pick on somebody else? Pick on all the religious people. What's he got? And and I realized, yes, I'm a Jew. What is there inside of me that is so, how do you say, arousing, that it arouses him, gets his hair up on his, what's so, and suddenly I realized that's it, is that Judaism opposes false egotism. And people don't want that. People don't want it. People don't want God to tell me, I'll do it my way. I want it all and I want it now. That's what the world is. And everybody has that inside of himself, and not including me, maybe mainly me, but for certain they have it. That's what gets up angry, etc. Right? It says Moshiach is going to come, and then there won't be any more wars. There won't be, because that false egotism, that's the cause of all the wars and the strife and the famines and the diseases, etc. in the world. That's the big enemy. Not white sugar, like some people say. White sugar is bad. Don't think it's not, but the big problem in the world is egotism. I read books, I remember when I was, years ago. This is before I became religious. Everybody was into macrobiotics, and the whole problem of the world is white sugar. That's it. White sugar is the problem to the world. It made all the wars in the world. It made all the trouble in the world, white sugar. So I thought to myself, listen, I agree pretty much. White sugar is not good, but I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. Just stop eating sugar, and then there will be peace in the world. That's what they said. That's a little bit simplistic. A little bit simplistic. The problem for all the world problems in the world is false egotism. That's the problem. And even if people eat candy bars and their sugar all day long, right, and they get rid of their false egotism and start connecting themselves to the Creator, there won't be any more wars. And there probably won't be any more white sugar also. People will probably stop eating it because it really is bad. But the problem is not what we eat, is what is who we are. It is sort of what we eat because we want to devour the whole world. So how do we get out of this? How can we make ourselves into an empty vessel? Is, like it says, leiv nishbar v'nitke, an empty heart and broken. Okay, because obviously it's a big problem, right? How can I get rid of my false Me, because who is my I that's going to get rid of this me? I mean, maybe my I that's trying to clean myself out, the I is also stuffed up and dirty. So I mean, there has to be some point to stand on that's true. So the Rebbe says, yeah, there is. There's the Rebbe. There's the Rebbe. And the Rebbe is trying to tell us that we are also Jews. Every Jew has a little Rebbe inside of him, a little Mashiach inside of him, a little Moses inside of him. And we have to break our hearts. What does it mean? It says, because God dwells with a person who is humble. Who kamashala uman, like a what is it called? An artisan. He makes a vessel, a pot. So first of all, what does he have to do? He takes a piece of metal and then he hits it with a hammer around and around until it becomes hollow, until it becomes indented. So it also a person the same thing is be humble. Don't take up a place at all. It should be empty. How do you know? Somebody makes you angry. Don't get angry. Just say, listen, maybe I deserved it, maybe whatever, but it's God's world. It's not my world. It's not my world. I'm not going to get in. You see something that usually make you lustful, right? Don't look at it. Don't, right? I'm nothing. I'm just a creation. Keep telling yourself this over and over again. I'm lucky to even be alive. Somebody takes stole from me $10. I'm lucky that I even have hands to hold on to the money. I have eyes to see the money. So I lost $10. I lost $100. I lost $1,000. I want it back 100%, but I'm not going to go crazy if I don't get it back. I'm not going to get angry if somebody borrows money from me and they don't give it back. I'm not going to go I'm depressed if somebody says bad words about me. In other words, to get rid of this false I that's triggering off all of this interaction with the world. There's once a person came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a Talmud scholar, and he said, everyone in the place of learning, there's hundreds of people, they all trample on me. They all trample all over me. But nobody gives me the honor that I deserve, which could be true. It could be true. They all trample over me. And the Rebbe said, well, maybe the reason is because you spread yourself all over the whole entire floor. In other words, everything that everybody says, everything that everybody does is stepping on you because you relate everything to yourself. You're everywhere. So maybe make yourself a little bit smaller and make it. Here the Rebbe is trying to say that, listen, the world is God's world. It's not your world. If people do things to you, so you have to judge according to the Torah. According to the Torah, there's almost nothing you can really get angry about. Almost nothing. And if you think there is something in the Torah that you can get angry about, you're probably fooling yourself. You're probably just looking in the Torah and trying to twist things around. There's nothing in the Torah that says you can be lustful and go after your things in this world, lust, money, and things like that. To be depressed, to be this. So it says, what's going to be if I don't love myself? It says, you make yourself empty. Don't worry, God will take care of it. And this is a general principle in the world. We have to do all the deeds, but the results are up to God. And if it doesn't come out the way we want to, it's not your world, it's God's world. It's the way that God always gives us what we need. Not always what we want, but always what we need. There's another thing what the rabbis say. It says you also have to wash the cup of blessing, you have to wash it out from the inside. The inyan hu, it means like this. Even a person who is humble, but teva naturally, a person is a poor person, and he hasn't got not the courage, the chutzpah, laharim rosh, right? He's not better than anybody. You can't tell everybody, move out of my way or something like that. Give me honor. A poor person hasn't got anything. Oh, nevertheless, even that person, don't incline yourself, even permissible things, to be attached to them, but called leiv nefesh. It's possible for that the world can it's possible for you to eat. I've seen in the synagogue where I am, it doesn't work that way anymore. But it used to be. There used to be poor people. There were a lot of people. There still are a lot of poor people. They spend, and sometimes they would argue one with the other. That was my dime. It was my. You took my dime. You took my. In 770, it used to be that way also. There's a lot of poor people that go around there, and everybody gives them like $1 or whatever, a quarter. Everybody gives them. And sometimes they fight with one another. Hey, that was my money. You took my money. Hey, that's my place. That's where I used to sit. Here's a person that he hasn't got anything, and he should be really humble, but he still finds some way to be egotistical. I remember Rabbi Mendel Futterfass, one of my teachers, he said that the simplest job that there could possibly be was a wagon driver. A wagon driver in those days is not like a taxi driver now. You have to know where to go on streets. There was just one road from one town to another, and you would drive the whole day and go to there and then come back. And that's all you had to know, like how to change a horseshoe or something like that. And that's all he knew. And he said, what does the wagon driver say to himself? No one knows to hit the horses, to whip the horses like me. I'm the best. In other words, to whip the horses is no big. Nevertheless, he says, no, I can whip the horses better. Everybody wants to think that I'm the best. That's where I get my. Says the Rebbe, you don't have to think that. You don't have to think that. The fact that you're alive, appreciate the fact that you're alive. Appreciate the fact that you exist. Appreciate the fact that God is giving you life, that God is creating you. He says, therefore, when you do things in the world, so the things in the world that you're doing, you have to do them without sinking your whole soul into them. Your soul should be connected to God. You should eat. You should. But a richest person has said, that's where it says that the Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, he was one that was a candidate to be Mashiach. It says that when he passed away, he was tremendously, fantastically rich, wealthy. And before he passed away, he held up his hands. He said, you should know, God, the 10 of these hands, and was referring to his 10 sfirot, his soul, has never gotten any pleasure from the world. I was tremendously rich, but he was always thinking everything I have is just a gift. I'm using everything for what God wants. If you are attached to the world, if a person is attached to the world, and the world is what triggers him off to have love or to have fear or to react, sure, it's impossible to be an empty vessel to receive the blessing and the inspiration of God until he washes himself out. It's like a dirty vessel. You can't put any wine into it until you wash it. So this is talking about a person that he decides, yes, I am going to do Torah and mitzvahs and the commandments and everything like that. So he pounds himself out and he makes himself into a vessel, but it's a dirty vessel. He still has this little bit of egotism, right? Why was he picked and I wasn't picked? Why is he sitting in my chair? I'm not sitting. Why is he dead? What? Right? Same thing, a woman cannot become pregnant, if she hasn't got a womb, that she has to be purified from her impurities. In other words, in the times that the time of menstruation, wherever she's impure, so she can't become pregnant. So she has the same thing is with us. You want to have love and fear of God, so you have to clean yourself out inside, which means don't live for yourself. Live for the Creator, and the Creator will take care of you. But living for the Creator means you have to be productive. You have to have a family, you have to have a job, you have to do everything that an egotistical person does, but the inside, it's like you're a spy. You're doing, but your real loyalty is not to yourself. Your real loyalty is to God who's creating you. Says when you do this, then you'll be surprised. And then you become a vessel for godliness. And this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. What's the result? So again, that's why it says about Moses that he was the most humble person in the world. Because he was the most humble person in the world, so he got the biggest blessings and prophecy. That was the secret of a prophet. He has to be a totally humble person. Isaiah, Jeremiah, etc., they were totally humble. Okay, now there's also false prophets. There's also false prophets as well. But here the Rebbe is trying to tell us, let God do something. And eventually you'll see that you're partners with God. As I say, you have to do everything. And in the end, you realize it was all God. God did everything. He gave you the power of life, the power to move, the power to make a business. He gave you the intellect to make the right choices, and etc. and etc. It was all big miracles. Yes, now we're going to do the Yom Yom. Here we go.